This is now known around the league. And it's telling if DeWanna Bonner says she chose the Fever over the Lynx and Mercury to win now.
Minnesota Lynx fans, you might want to sit down for this one. Cheryl Reeve thought she had DeWanna Bonner all but signed, sealed, and delivered. The contract, practically ready. The press conference, probably already scheduled. Then, out of nowhere, boom, Indiana Fever swooped in and snatched Bonner away like a thief in the night. The Lynx didn't just miss out on a player, they lost the centerpiece of their entire offseason plan. Cheryl Reeve is furious that DeWanna Bonner rejected her for Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever.
But the Lynx were there. So to choose the Fever over them is saying something. And I think all of those players choosing the Fever said all you need to know.
But here's the thing. Bonner had been dropping hints for months. Remember when she openly talked about wanting to win now? Or how she barely reacted when the Phoenix Mercury traded for her own fiancée, Alyssa Thomas. The warning signs were flashing bright red, and yet Minnesota ignored them all. They thought they had this in the bag, but Bonner was playing chess while Reeve was playing checkers.
I'm glad that this really worked out because this almost turned really ugly for the WNBA, man. You talking about Nafisa Collier being on a revenge tour. That was definitely going to be a revenge tour worth watching, man, because they were going to mop the league.
This wasn't just some last-minute decision. It was a calculated move that had been in the works for a long time. The Lynx were so confident in their pursuit of Bonner that they were practically sizing her up for her jersey number. They saw her as the missing piece to take them back to championship glory, slotting her right alongside Nafisa Collier and Kayla McBride. The front office had already visualized parades through downtown Minneapolis, celebrating what they thought would be their next title run.
Man, I want y'all to hear this. All 5 of last season's regular starters left during this offseason free agency. They're talking about the Connecticut Sun here, including 3 who had spent their entire careers, a collective 23 seasons with the organization. One of those players, Alyssa Thomas, sought a move to a championship contender, Phoenix, with superior facilities.
And if you want proof of just how deep Minnesota was into this plan, they even considered trading for Alyssa Thomas, Bonner's fiancée, in a desperate attempt to sweeten the deal. That's the basketball equivalent of buying someone a house before the first anniversary. Risky, desperate, and ultimately unnecessary.
The Lynx also explored trading for Thomas, league sources told The Athletic, and looked at signing her fiancé and former Sun teammate DeWanna Bonner.
Meanwhile, while Reeve and the Lynx were making their intentions loud and clear for the world to see, Indiana was playing it cool. No leaks, no flashy moves, just smart, quiet, behind-the-scenes relationship building. While Minnesota was out there trying to make a public spectacle of their pursuit, the Fever were putting together a masterclass in patience and precision. They let Reeve believe she had this wrapped up while they set the stage for the perfect steal.
Nonetheless, the other things or other desires or other factors, as they say, I'm pretty sure that's the key factor of why she left and why she went to the Fever instead of the Lynx.
And then, just like that, the move happened. Bonner turned down Minnesota's offer and chose to join forces with Caitlin Clark in Indiana. The Lynx left scrambling. Reeve, absolutely furious. What was supposed to be their biggest offseason acquisition had just slipped through their fingers, and there was nothing they could do about it.
Now, thinking of the Lynx, man, that would be a disgusting team if she ended up going to the Lynx, man. Can you imagine Alyssa Thomas going to the Lynx, allowing Nafisa Collier to play the 4, and then you even have Bonner there as well? Like, dog, that is, woo.
DeWanna Bonner played Cheryl Reeve and the Lynx front office like a fiddle, and they never saw it coming. The craziest part? Bonner had been leaving breadcrumbs about her true intentions for months, and nobody in Minnesota picked up on them. The signs were there, clear as day. If only they had been paying attention.
Because I can't even imagine Fee at the 3, and then you have Bonner and Alyssa at the 4 and the 5. Oh my goodness, bro. You could tell the Lynx knew that the Indiana Fever were piping up as far as grabbing some of the best players to make that organization run like a well-oiled machine, man.
Remember the WNBA All-Star Game last season? Photos surfaced of Bonner and Caitlin Clark engaged in deep, focused conversations. These weren't just polite exchanges or quick greetings between competitors. These were the kinds of talks that scream, "We're planning something big." While the basketball world assumed Minnesota was the frontrunner for Bonner, she was already laying the groundwork for a future alongside Clark in Indiana.
All-Star Game. Now, there's certain pictures coming around, floating around online of Caitlin Clark and DeWanna Bonner at the All-Star Game, chopping it up, kind of insinuating, not saying that this is facts, that this whole situation kind of could have been in the works already.
This wasn't a last-minute change of heart. It was a masterfully planned move, months in the making. Bonner let Minnesota believe they had the upper hand, but in reality, she had already aligned herself with the Fever's vision long before free agency even opened. While Reeve and company were busy mapping out their championship strategy, Bonner was quietly buying into the Indiana Fever's long-term blueprint.
Most of the teams do realize that that is about to happen, so they are strengthening up their roster. And that move right there would have been crazy, fam. That would have been a crazy move. Having Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner on the Lynx, that would have been unfair because then you have Fee and then you have McBride. Oh my goodness, dog.
And let's talk about Phoenix for a second because they really thought they had this all locked up. The Mercury pulled what they assumed was the ultimate power move, trading for Alyssa Thomas, Bonner's fiancée. Their front office must have been patting themselves on the back thinking, "There's no way she turns us down now. We literally brought in her partner." But then reality hit. Bonner didn't just turn them down. She didn't even seem tempted. Phoenix's grand plan fell completely flat, and they were left scrambling to understand how they got it so wrong.
Now, from the jump, I felt like Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner was going to be that other couple that always stayed together. But, you know, DeWanna Bonner pulled a rabbit out of the hat on me, man, and said, hey, I'm going Indiana.
Minnesota, on the other hand, had every reason to believe they were the perfect fit. They had the championship pedigree, a seasoned coach in Cheryl Reeve, and a roster stacked with talent ready to win now. On paper, it made perfect sense for a 37-year-old veteran looking for one last ring before retirement. But Bonner saw something different. Something both Minnesota and Phoenix somehow missed.
But Phoenix also heavily courted Bonner, league sources said, yet the desire to win immediately, among other factors, led Bonner to the Indiana Fever.
In her official statement after signing with Indiana, Bonner didn't talk about joining an established powerhouse. Instead, she emphasized her excitement about being part of an organization on the rise and committed to growing the sport of women's basketball. That's not just PR fluff. That's a veteran who's been around long enough to recognize genuine potential when she sees it. While others saw Indiana as a work in progress, Bonner saw a chance to build something special. And now, she's ready to do just that.
Now, I wonder what the other factors were. I mean, going to the Lynx is definitely a win right now situation. It's mainly the other factors that made her go to the Indiana Fever.
Indiana Fever just went from WNBA afterthought to the hottest ticket in town. DeWanna Bonner's decision wasn't just a standard free agent move, it was a statement. When she signed with Indiana, she wasn't looking for an easy ring. She wanted to build something, to turn a struggling franchise back into a legitimate powerhouse. And if you ask her, that journey to greatness starts now.
I think maybe Bonner is going towards popularity. Maybe she grow that popularity, and then after the season is over with or when she retires, she can start her own podcast and have people check in with her. I don't know. I'm just giving out hypotheticals here.
The most telling part of Bonner's decision? She didn't just say she wanted to help Indiana compete. She specifically mentioned bringing them back to championship form. This wasn't about hopping on an already established contender like Minnesota or Phoenix. This was about shaping a dynasty from the ground up, leaving a lasting impact by helping transform a team that had been lost in the shuffle for years.
With that move right here, she's basically saying, I want to play in front of sold-out crowds. I want to get that popularity popping. I want people to sell out my jersey.
And here's where it gets even crazier. According to The Athletic, Bonner's #1 priority was winning immediately. That means she genuinely believes Indiana gives her a better shot at a championship than Minnesota or Phoenix. Let that sink in. At first glance, it sounds insane. But when you really break it down, it makes perfect sense.
So, hey, I feel it, man. What a business decision. And then also you have a competitive team that could actually go to the finals this year. So that's just a win-on-win situation.
Indiana isn't just another rebuilding team. They've got something special. With Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, the Fever have arguably the most dangerous young duo in basketball. We're talking about two generational talents, perfectly complementing each other, who could run the WNBA for the next decade. Bonner saw that. She recognized that linking up with Clark and Boston now puts her in the perfect position to ride the wave that's only beginning to swell.
Now, I knew Alyssa Thomas wasn't going to ever think about going to the Indiana Fever the way she was talking about the fan base at the end of the season. But yeah, man, DeWanna Bonner, man, said, look, forget what you're talking about. I'm about to take my talents to Indiana. I don't care how you feel about the organization.
For years, the assumption was that veterans only wanted to sign with teams that had already built championship rosters. Bonner flipped that logic on its head. She's thinking 5 steps ahead, realizing that the real power move isn't joining an established super team, but aligning with the future super team before everyone else catches on. She didn't just see Indiana's roster. She saw the future of women's basketball forming before the rest of the league even realized it.
If this happened, I believe the Indiana Fever are going to be one of the best running gun teams you've ever seen in the WNBA. And that goes back to me saying that Caitlin Clark is still going to average 20 points, I feel, and be able to get those assists.
And what's truly mind-blowing, the Indiana Fever, the same team that had been the laughingstock of the league for years, is suddenly the most sought-after destination in the WNBA. Remember all those jokes about Fever fans? Yeah, those tweets are aging worse than unrefrigerated milk in July.
I feel like the Fever have a great chance of averaging between 90 to 100 points a game, bro. I'm not going to lie. And Caitlin is still going to be Caitlin. She's going to be more efficient on the shooting, seeing how she's been working out, getting her shot together.
Indiana wasn't just bad for a few seasons. They were buried in irrelevance for nearly a decade. They were a small market team that couldn't attract top-tier talent no matter how much money they had. When you looked at the WNBA landscape, it was painfully obvious where stars wanted to go. Big market glitz in New York, championship pedigree in Minnesota, or the bright lights of Las Vegas. Indiana? That was the place where players' careers went to fade away.
So Indiana Fever star DeWanna Bonner turned down 2 elite teams in free agency for a powerful season. Because I'm telling you right now, bro, no disrespect to the Mercury or the Lynx, but I don't see them going all the way.
Even after drafting Caitlin Clark, analysts still assumed veterans would steer clear. The logic was simple. One rookie, no matter how elite, couldn't single-handedly erase years of a losing culture overnight. Indiana was supposed to remain at the bottom, stuck in basketball purgatory. But Bonner's decision just proved those experts dead wrong. The Fever aren't just a team on the rise. They're the team everyone suddenly wants to be a part of. And if you don't believe it yet, just wait. This is only the beginning.
I mean, I see Indiana having more of a future, you know what I'm saying, than a lot of these other teams. Like, they future look good, bro. And it's like, why not be a part of history?
The Indiana Fever have officially flipped the WNBA on its head. In just a few months, they've gone from an afterthought to the hottest team in the league. For years, they couldn't even get a meeting with top-tier free agents. Now, veterans are lining up, hoping for a chance to join the revolution happening in Indiana.
Regardless, so many players decided they were going to go to the Indiana Fever, which was the death knell for a lot of those narratives.
DeWanna Bonner's decision wasn't just a win. It was a seismic shift. When a 3-time champion and 7-time All-Star picks a rebuilding team over established contenders, the message is loud and clear. Indiana is no longer a stepping stone or a place for players to quietly finish their careers. It's a destination. And Bonner's move is forcing the rest of the league to take a hard look at what's happening in Indianapolis.
You know, they weren't traded. Cunningham was traded there, but Natasha Howard signed with the Indiana Fever. And I think more importantly, DeWanna Bonner signing with the Indiana Fever was representative of that.
So, what changed? Why are players suddenly choosing Indiana over teams like Minnesota or Phoenix? It's not just Caitlin Clark's arrival, though that certainly helps. It's the perfect storm of talent, vision, and opportunity. The Fever aren't just rebuilding. They're constructing a dynasty in real time. 2 consecutive #1 picks in Clark and Aaliyah Boston have created a foundation that makes sense for veterans looking to win. Boston dominates inside, Clark stretches the floor, and together, they make everyone around them better.
Now, I feel like Caitlin Clark is going to have like a LeBron season, what's going on right now, where he's getting these easy buckets and not having to work so hard for it like he used to do before Luka. So yeah, I feel like Caitlin is going to be in those predicaments where she's running off of the screens and she's getting those backdoor passes. She's getting easier buckets than she had to work for last year, which is another testament to her 20-point average.
But it's more than just on-court chemistry. The Fever are now the biggest show in women's basketball. Once struggling attendance numbers have skyrocketed. Their games are must-watch events. The media attention is unmatched, giving every player on the roster an opportunity to raise their profile. Brand deals are pouring in. For veterans nearing the end of their careers, this kind of exposure could mean a massive payday, both now and in retirement.
And like I've said, there's so many pros to playing for the Indiana. The pros being that you get more attention, you get more endorsements, you get a chance to win, you get fans on the road or away, or at home. All these things come to you when you're playing for the Fever.
This isn't just a team on the rise. This is a complete power shift in the WNBA. And Bonner saw it before most. Her words say it all. I'm extremely thankful to be joining an organization that's on the rise and committed to growing the sport of women's basketball. She didn't just want to win, she wanted to help shape the future of the league. And that's exactly what she's doing.
Not only will DeWanna Bonner exceptional on the court, be an immediate difference maker for the Fever, but the veteran presence and leadership should bring locker room, heaven. It should bring locker room a good sense.
Minnesota completely misread the situation. They thought they had Bonner locked up. Instead, they got played. But this isn't just about one team's failed free agency plans. It's about an entire league undergoing a transformation. The old powerhouses? They're being replaced. Indiana is the team of the future, and Bonner's move just confirmed it. The Fever aren't just back. They're here to take over. And the rest of the WNBA better be ready. Are you excited? Let us know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next one.